Have you ever felt a presence in the woods so profound, so ancient, that it changes you forever? I have, and I'm here to share the story of how a terrifying encounter in the heart of the forest turned my deep-seated fear into an unshakable faith. It's a story about Bigfoot, but it's also about something much, much bigger. My name is Alex, and for most of my life, the deep woods were my sanctuary. I grew up hiking, camping, and feeling completely at home among the towering trees and quiet whispers of nature. I'd heard the stories, of course, the local legends of a large, hairy creature roaming the mountains. I'd chuckle, dismissing them as campfire tales, fun to think about, but nothing more. My logical mind, the one that trusted maps and compasses, had no room for myths. I believed in what I could see, touch, and prove. But the wilderness has a way of challenging everything you think you know. It all happened last fall. The air was crisp, and the leaves were a symphony of gold and crimson. I was on a solo backpacking trip, deep in a remote stretch of national forest I'd never explored before. I was miles from any marked trail, seeking that pure, untouched solitude you can only find when you truly go off-grid. The first 2 days were bliss. The silence of the forest was broken only by the chirping of birds and the rustle of small animals. I felt completely at peace, fully in my element. The third evening, something shifted as the sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows through the dense canopy. A strange feeling washed over me. It was a primal sense of being watched. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just the isolation playing tricks on my mind. I busied myself with setting up my small tent and starting a fire, but the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing minute. It felt like a pair of unseen eyes were fixed on my every move. The usual forest sounds died down, replaced by an unnervous, heavy silence. It was the kind of quiet that feels loud, the kind that precedes a storm. As darkness fell completely, the first sound reached me. It was a low, guttural moan that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. It wasn't a bear or a cougar or any animal I could identify. It was deep, powerful, and filled with a strange, almost melancholic intelligence. My heart began to pound in my chest. I grabbed my heavy-duty flashlight and my bear spray, my hands trembling slightly. I was no longer a confident outdoorsman. I was a frightened child in the dark. Then came the wood knocks. 2 distinct, heavy thuds against a tree, echoing through the valley. They were answered moments later by a single knock from the other side of my camp. It was a clear, deliberate pattern of communication. This wasn't random. This was intelligent. Panic started to set in. Every story I'd ever dismissed came rushing back. I slowly scanned the tree line with my flashlight beam, my breath catching in my throat. I saw nothing but a wall of impenetrable blackness just beyond the reach of my light. I spent the entire night huddled in my tent, a knife in one hand and the bear spray in the other, listening. The sounds continued intermittently, the low groans, the wood knocks, and the unmistakable sound of something massive moving through the underbrush just beyond my campsite. It circled me. I could hear heavy footfalls, the snapping of thick branches that no deer or bear would break so carelessly. At one point, I heard what sounded like a soft, inquisitive whistle, almost like it was trying to coax a response from me. Fear was a physical thing, a cold weight in my stomach. I was utterly terrified, convinced I wasn't going to make it to sunrise. I thought about my family, my friends, everything I'd taken for granted. In that moment of pure terror, I prayed. I prayed like I hadn't prayed in years. Just before dawn, the forest fell silent again. The oppressive presence was gone. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, I cautiously unzipped my tent. I was exhausted but alive. My first instinct was to pack up and run, to get back to civilization as fast as my legs could carry me. As I frantically started stuffing my gear into my pack, I noticed something at the edge of my campsite. It was a small, carefully arranged pile of objects that absolutely wasn't there the night before. I crept closer, my fear mixed with a powerful new curiosity. There, laid neatly on a large, flat rock, were three things. The first was a beautifully woven braid of long, dark grasses and cedar bark. It was intricate, a clear work of craftsmanship, not something that could occur naturally. Beside it was a single perfect white quartz stone, the kind you might find in a creek bed, but this one was smooth and almost glowed in the morning light. The final item made my blood run cold and warm at the same time. It was a single, large, pristine eagle feather. I stood there staring at this impossible arrangement. My logical mind was screaming, trying to find a rational explanation, a prank. No, nobody could have followed me this deep into the wilderness without me knowing, and to do it in the dead of night while a large unseen creature was circling my camp. It made no sense. This wasn't a threat. It was a gift. It felt like a peace offering, a gesture of goodwill. The being, or beings, that had terrified me all night could have easily harmed me. They were massive, powerful, and had me completely at their mercy. But they didn't. Instead, they left me this. It was a message. It said, "We see you. We know you are here. We mean you no harm." In that moment, everything changed. My terror evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of awe and humility. I wasn't the master of this forest. I was a guest. I had trespassed into a world I didn't understand, a world inhabited by beings far more ancient and intelligent than I could have imagined. I was small, and the universe was infinitely more mysterious and wonderful than I had ever allowed myself to believe. My fear hadn't been of the creature itself, but of the unknown it represented. And this gift, this simple, beautiful gesture, had turned that unknown from a source of dread into a source of wonder. I carefully picked up the items. The braid felt strong and resilient in my hand. The quartz was cool and solid. The eagle feather was a symbol of spirit, of vision, of a connection to something higher. I packed them away as my most precious possessions. The long hike back wasn't filled with fear, but with a profound sense of peace and gratitude. The forest no longer felt empty or menacing. It felt alive, sentient, and sacred. That experience reshaped my entire worldview. I came back from that trip a different person. I began to see the world not just through the lens of science and logic, but also through the lens of faith. And I don't mean faith in a religious sense necessarily. I mean faith in the mystery. Faith that there are things beyond our current understanding, things that are beautiful, powerful, and worthy of our respect. The creature I now believe to be Bigfoot didn't just scare me, it woke me up. It reminded me that we humans are not the only intelligent life on this planet, and that we have so much to learn about the world we inhabit. That gift wasn't just a collection of objects, it was the gift of a new perspective. It was the gift of faith. I still have the braid, the stone, and the feather. They sit on my desk, a constant reminder of that night. They remind me to stay humble, to stay curious, and to respect the wild places and the secrets they hold. My fear was real, but what I gained from it was so much more powerful. I went into the woods looking for solitude, and I found a connection to something I never knew existed. And for that, I will be forever grateful. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had an experience that challenged your view of the world, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, please consider liking and subscribing for more journeys into the unexplained. Stay curious, everyone.